And we are back. This is Real Talk. I'm here with Matt. And look, we're just going to jump into it and try to figure out what's going on with you. So
Yeah.
I'm guessing you're here so I can help in some way, try to figure out what's going on with you in your life. But just tell me, what's the single biggest problem or challenge with you right now? If there's one thing, why are you here? What can I help with?
Yeah, no. And firstly, Brian, thanks for having me on the show, and absolutely love what you're doing with London Real.
Thank you,
I've been following your stuff for a while.
Cool, man. Thank you.
I love your content. It's great.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
I would say so. I mean, I'm quite a young startup founder.
Okay.
So we've been in the trenches. We've been bootstrapping a company for 14 months now.
Okay.
We've got it to a position now where it's kind of crunch time.
Right.
So we've got some massive opportunities on our doorstep, and we're trying to figure out how to make them happen.
Okay.
And I guess on a kind of personal level, like I guess a lot of my millennial peers, can't help but feeling a little bit of overwhelm.
Right.
And you know what it's like when you're in the trenches and you've got stuff coming at you from all angles.
Tell me about how that overwhelm manifests itself when you feel it. And like, give us also, for people that don't know, like,
Yeah.
how many hours a week we talk in here, and what does like a crazy stressful day look like? You know?
That's a very good question. I haven't clocked the hours, but I mean, we're talking at the moment, we're fundraising. We're about to go live with a number of different clients. So I'm talking 90, 100-hour weeks right now.
Right.
Late nights, as you can tell, probably look a little bit tired.
So like 12, 14-hour days, and you're trying to fundraise on the side, which is a completely different plate to spin, and it's stressful in its own ways, right?
It is, and no matter no matter how anyone tries to mask it, fundraising is a challenge.
Yeah.
Because you're on the business, you're not in the business.
Yeah.
So I mean, if I was to kind of articulate how it feels, you're in the trenches, you're fighting fires, and then all of a sudden you pick your head up and it's Saturday morning again, and it's like I kind of feel like I'm just lacking a little bit of clarity.
Okay.
There's so much going on that I'm struggling to kind of process everything at times.
Okay.
And then have that bit of clarity that I guess is really important.
Okay. When you feel like you're working too much, how does that actually manifest, like emotionally? Like, do you feel like you're letting people down, or do you feel like I'm too stressed, or is it like, do personal relationships suffer, and then you're wondering like, how long can I postpone this into the future? Is that what's happening?
I think so, and I think there's maybe a certain element of guilt as well, right?
All right.
So I've got close mates who've been sort of lifelong friends since we're like 11.
Okay.
And we've been through a lot together. And with no doubt, I feel an element of guilt towards them.
Because you're not a good friend.
Yeah. And I'm not around as much as I was, but prior to this busy period. And then secondly, on the family.
Okay. Who's the family?
So my mom and my sister, we've been a really tight unit over the years. My mum's been through quite a tricky period recently.
Okay, and she was a single parent when you were growing up.
Yeah, for quite a while, and she's recently had some bad news and lost her job. So I'm trying to balancing that, and then I've got this guilt that the time I'm spending, pretty much 99% of my time on the business, I've got all these other more important things really to be dealing with. So you can feel the kind of overwhelm.
Yeah, I can feel that stress.
Yeah.
So look, this is something a lot of people struggle with, this whole concept of work. People say work-life balance, but I hate that term because it's about so much more than that, right? I mean, there's a lot of things going on here, and you're like conflicted in a lot of ways, and you're not alone. Like I deal with this all the time, and a lot of people deal with this. So look, this is good, and look, I have what I call like a 6-step process where I try to walk people through what I call this resist and transform. So it's just a way of trying to acknowledge what's kind of going on and finding kind of a way out or a way to look at it in a different perspective. Because look, you obviously are on a mission with this business, right? I mean, I can feel it. I know the energy around here in tech. I can see it in your eyes. You're like, this feels like your chance. If you let it go, you don't know if it's going to come back, right? In the tech space, you can't put things on hold for a year. And so I have to do this right now.
Yeah.
At the same point, you realize that your friends probably, I don't know about my friends, every time they talk to me, I'm like, yeah, I'm doing this, and they're just like, okay, good for you, but you don't have any time for me, right? Do you get that vibe from your friends?
Yeah,
I'm
for
sure
sure,
you do.
for sure.
And then you got, your mom and your sister who are obviously going through difficult times, who maybe need you. She probably doesn't always ask, but you know that she needs you. And again, that can't wait either, right? So you're dealing with this difficult, like, emotional situation.
For sure, right? And I think one of the things that keeps us driving forward, our vision for UHubs, we're actually trying to upskill 1 billion people by 2030.
Okay.
So, it gets you flying out of bed in the morning,
Yeah.
and we're really on a mission to make that a reality. Having said that, it's my co-founder Ash keeps saying, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
We don't want to burn ourselves out before we.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So I am a classic workaholic, all right? And I've had so many discussions about this. I make movies about this, all right? And I usually have a guy named Dr. Gabor Mate in here who's here telling me, Brian, what's going on with you? And in our last movie, Reconnect, he said, Brian, the work gives you so much fulfillment. He said, all the people say what a great guy Brian Rose is. And with you do this work and you're like, I'm helping 1 billion people. And everyone's like, wow, you're really sharp. And you got partners in the building next door and you're feeling this buzz, right? And he said, well, Brian, so you think if I do twice that, then I get twice as much more love and approval and all of that stuff going on. But if you forget your base, then you're gonna find you come home one day and you have no friends, no relationships, no nothing. And then you realize that now you can't even do the work anymore because you're going to just be emotionally bankrupt.
Yeah.
We see this all the time. Now, some tech people will just keep running anyways, but there comes to a point where you're just going to be totally empty and dead inside.
Yeah.
So you got to walk this super fine line, which is hard, but I also think it's doable as well. If you had to think about how to structure your life differently, say 2 years ago before you started this venture, how would you do things differently?
I would definitely. I think it's just my nature. I've got a lot of grit and determination, but I think at times we're, like a lot of my friends as well, we're victims of. We're so determined to, get things done and make it happen, that we become a little bit a victim of like a busy fool.
Yeah.
So I think actually just realizing that to step back and try and identify ways to work smarter, instead of just being on the treadmill. Yeah. And that's something that I'm trying to do more of. This year definitely, but it's easier said than done.
It's easier said than done. Can you see anything right now where you could work smarter? Because again, this was me at London Real 5 years ago. I was one-man show in the old studio, and for me, I had to do everything myself. I was micromanaging, and I was busy all the time. And busy can be a drug as well, right? I'm busy. You probably tell your friends you're busy all the time, right?
Yeah.
And nobody wants to hear that because it's actually a super selfish thing, being busy, isn't it? Because it's me, me, me. In some ways. Well, let me ask you another question. For me, sometimes being busy is so I don't have to think about other things in my life that suck.
It's like a distraction.
It is a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you see any of that in your life?
I think maybe over the years, like when going through some things earlier in my life, perhaps like just getting my head down.
Yeah.
And having that focus and that distraction.
I mean, you had a bumpy childhood. Are there emotions there that bring up now? Because like my parents divorced when I was 7, and I've been an overachiever since. And my last movie, Dorian Yates, the bodybuilder, says, Brian, you're looking for love.
Yeah.
Right? And I hate it when people say that to me because I want to punch him in the face because it makes me feel insecure, like I'm a tough guy, I don't need love. But he's probably right. I'm looking for the approval through the accomplishments. And so then I'm spinning in this loop that will always end with me being sad and unfulfilled.
Yeah.
Are you in the same?
Yeah, I think that a lot of that resonates.
I see a bunch of that.
And I almost think that if I hadn't sort of had those experiences, I wouldn't have that kind of grit and determination to make it happen.
Yes, and I agree with that too. So like that's why you can't undo it. But what you can do is you can choose so it doesn't become this repeating loop. Yeah. You don't have children, do you?
And none that I know about.
Oh yeah, okay, well, that's good. And I used to say that too. But I have 2 now, and so the perspective it gives me, Matt, is that I see that if I don't do the right things, my boys are going to be the same as me. Because they're going to see dad working all the time. They're also going to see that he thinks they're not important, that work is more important, and they're going to go into this loop, and it's super dangerous, you know? And so I look, 2 things. I acknowledge that brought me to where I am, and I think having grit is really good. But also, like, what do you want at the end of this? That's what I really want to know. Like 60, 70-year-old, you're on your deathbed, like what are you going to look back and want? I know you want to make it, right? You want to build something. Well, what do you want?
Legacy, actually, is one thing that I've written down.
Why?
I think to arguably to leave an impact around the people that I interact with and the people that I know.
Right.
So for them to to be proud, I guess.
Okay.
So I can look back at the end of it, you know, as you say, when I'm on my deathbed and say, yeah, you know, I hustled hard. I did some cool things and built some stuff that are going to live longer than I am.
Right.
And that for me is quite powerful.
Okay. And if you think about your upbringing, those emotions, how does that play into who you are now?
I think I want to provide some opportunities that I perhaps didn't have.
Okay.
So I think maybe when people meet me, they assume that I kind of went through a kind of very privileged upbringing and had it all, right? But actually, you know, we weren't poor, but it wasn't privileged like that.
Okay.
So I think, you know, and that's really the genesis of U-Hubs. Like the only way that I've been able to develop my skill set is by having some big brands behind me at companies I've worked at and being able to build relationships, you know, and then learn directly from amazing mentors like yourself. And actually, I want to try and figure out a model to enable people to access experts like that, regardless of your background, you know, regardless of your network or which school you went to, or where you happen to be born in the world.
Yeah. And look, I love that vision, but I also worry about you getting derailed. That's all. And I've done it myself before. Yeah. Some people say I'm doing it right now, you know, where I'm not paying enough attention to the people around me. And we all know, they've done the survey of the old people, right? And they all say, what's the thing you regret the most in life? And it's not having more of a legacy. Yeah. It's not building an extra $1 billion company. It's like not having those relationships along the way. And you're not doing that now. And you're going to pay for it at some point, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, what can we do now differently? Because you're always going to be busy.
Yeah.
And I mean, what could you do now to change a little bit about the mentality around these personal relationships? Because without that, that's your fuel. Yeah. Your personal relationships are your fuel at the end of the day, especially your mom. Like, I mean, my mom's now 75. She's not going to be around forever. And it's just like, I got to really think about how I want to remember my relationship with her.
Sure.
And then my kids as well. It's like, look, it's a fine line, man. I'm with you as well. Like, yeah. And you can trick yourself. Like, and part of you maybe thinks you trick yourself now. Because you think about 1 billion people and you're like, this is more important.
Yeah.
But then also I think, oh, I'm building this for the future. I'm helping all these people. But it's like, but you're letting the people around you down. And those are the people that mean the most to you. And that relationship actually fuels you. Mm. So if you can't find a way to invest in that, then yeah, you're going to be a mess.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you're a smart guy. You are able to raise funds and pitch people and build systems, and yet you can't find 5 hours a week to invest in the personal relationships.
It sounds pretty pathetic.
It does,
like
right?
Yeah.
It sounds pathetic. And I mean, I don't know, how does it, let's think of an extreme example, you know, where something happens to your mom and she can't tell you because she thinks you're too busy, or one of your mates is, you know, diagnosed with cancer and he's like, I'm not going to bother telling you because you don't give a shit anyways. Like, how does that feel when you come to that moment where it's like, oh my God, I've been such a jerk that nobody even wants to talk to me anymore.
Yeah.
I don't get invited to social events anymore because they know I'm going to say no, because your life is all about you. It's easy to say it's about the 1 billion people, but it's also about you.
Yeah.
I mean, can you visualize that?
Yeah.
How does it feel?
It's pretty tough. Yeah, it's pretty painful. But to be honest, I can kind of see, and I guess the narrative that I tell myself is that it's temporary. Like it's just this period. You know? It's just this busy period. Like we're just gonna get through the 3 months, and then next thing you know, it's like it's been 6 months, and it's.
I know, and I know guys in the tech space. I mean, we used to have Silicon Reel, the show, and it's 6 years later.
Yeah.
You know the companies like that. It's 3 more months, honey. It's 3 more months, honey. And be honest, I've told my wife that as well. Babe, I just got to finish this movie. And the first 2 movies, she was like, okay. Now in the 3rd or 5th one, she's like, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Because she knows I have this addictive personality that wants to keep having more. Maybe because I need the approval. Maybe because I'm looking for the legacy. Yeah. It's maybe built into my childhood. Yeah. Maybe like yours. So like you need to come to terms with this now and find a structure to where you can find a way to invest time in people, or it's gonna end really bad.
Yeah.
And it's probably already, you're feeling bumps now from people.
Yeah.
And that's just gonna magnify. So again, like this whole system I have, I call it, the first is acknowledge and resist. So I need you, and I think you have, and for anybody watching, look, a lot of us have the same problem. You need to acknowledge that, first of all, you're lying to yourself. The busyness isn't gonna stop in 3 months.
Yeah.
Because you do Series A, if you get your Series A, it's going to be, oh my God, with this Series A. And then it's like, guess what? 8 months later, you need more money, and now you need bigger clients, and it's just it's the rat race that never ends. So you're lying to yourself with that. the legacy I think is important, and I'm glad you have a great vision, but it's easy to throw the billion people out there and forget about the people around you that care.
Yeah.
And like, to be honest, I do the same thing, man. Like I got, 500 million people that watched our stuff. It's easy for me to think I'm gonna be a jerk today so I can serve other people.
Yeah.
But like, that's not cool, and that's just gonna bring me also like bad karma. It's gonna come back and punch you in the face.
Sure.
And so we gotta stop lying to ourselves and gotta think, all right, what can I do to actually invest in these relationships? And here's the good news. It doesn't take as much as you think it does, but it takes resisting certain behaviors. So this is the second part, resistance, is that every day when you're gonna wanna deprioritize a family engagement, what about your health? How's your health? You training on a regular basis?
Yeah, I try.
Okay.
Not as much as I'd like to, but
Okay.
I've been in the gym for about 8-10 years now.
Okay.
I love it.
All right.
Yeah,
So that-
fasting and everything.
Okay, me too. So that's something people forget, but it's like your personal life, your brain meditation space, your physical space, because one of those will just break if you don't pay attention to it.
Yeah.
So again, resistance, you're gonna have to find a way to invest even an hour a day into these people. And again, this is the good news. It's not as much as you think it is.
Yeah.
I had a guest on the other day, Paul McKenna, and he said, Brian, I want you to go home to your loved one and I want you to ask them this question. And I want you to do this tonight with your mom, your sister, and your 5 best friends.
Mm-hmm.
Ask them, what do you need from me? That's simple. And ask what they think. Now you may just say, they might make a joke and say, buy me a pint. But then actually, what you really want to do is meet them. Like meet them for a coffee. I know you're a super busy guy, and just take your top 5 and say, what do you need from me?
Yeah.
And you think they're going to say, I want you to go to the ski weekend, and I want you to play football every Wednesday night, and you're going to be like, I can't do that. But they actually don't need that. They might just say, hey, I just need you to pick up my phone call when I call, because that's important, you know. And a lot of times they just need 10 minutes of your time, you know what I mean? Or your mom might just say, I just need you to come over for dinner on Sunday once every month, and like that's enough for her. My wife, I asked her this the other night, and she said, Brian, I want you to take more pictures of me.
Okay.
I thought she wanted like 4 hours of walks in the park on a Sunday, but that's not what she wanted. She just wanted a little thing that showed her that I was still invested in her. She still wants to support me on my vision, but she just wanted a little something from me. So that's what I want you to do. Try that. The only other thing I would say is get everybody else on board with the vision. So this is something I have to repeatedly do with my family, is say, honey, what we are doing, you and me, is we're building something that will be our future. It's something our boys are proud of, our family is proud of. It's a reality that is London Real, and I want you to understand where we're going and have your input in that. If your friends and family feel like they're part of that process, they're going to support you all the time.
Yeah.
If they think you're just doing this to be you, it's going to be hard.
Sure.
So I know it might sound like an obvious conversation, but I would have it with your sister and your mom and just say, look, this is my plan. They might not even know what your plan is, and this is why I want to do it. This is my legacy, and maybe be honest with them. Maybe say, I think this comes from when I was a kid, and I want this, but I still am going to play this out, and I realize that maybe it's a little unhealthy, but I also think it gives me the grit. And just being that communicative, I think, would really make a big difference. So the last thing I always tell my guys do is this concept of purging. So you've probably got a lot of mentalities in your brain. Some of them are Silicon Roundabout related mentalities that keep you in this rat race of go, 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 tech, billion-dollar valuations, we're changing the world. I think you need to purge some of those mindsets, because I think it can get you focused in the wrong way, you know. And we see this, like sometimes there's jokes about it in some of these comedy like television shows, and you know, we're all changing the world, we're all doing this, and it's like, okay, but sometimes that gets you to do things that are not cool and unrealistic.
Sure. Like
we all know the famous dictators in this world that have killed millions of people because they're trying to create a pure socialist society. And I would just say with you, purge any type of thought pattern that is turning you into a megalomaniac jerk. Right? And so, you know, so acknowledge your mission statement for 1 billion people, but also acknowledge that also I might have a tendency of doing this for me and my personal legacy and my ego. And by doing that, I'm going to forget about those people around me that are super important. There's a way where it works. I'm sure you know big guys in tech that have pretty good balanced relationships in life, right? You know them, right?
Yeah.
You see them and you're like, how do you do it? They do it because they delegate, they work smarter, and they spend the time. I mean, there's a guy named Scooter Braun who's Justin Bieber's manager, and he was at Grant Cardone's GrowthCon this last weekend. And he said, I go home and have dinner with my kids every night. And you're like, how can you do that? You're doing all these million things. You got $1 billion business. And he's like, that's non-negotiable. So just pick a few of those non-negotiables and you'll find, I think, you won't be as stressed out about this, which will make you much more effective in the rest of your time. Your relationships will start giving you a lot more energy back. You'll be a better entrepreneur. And I would say the same thing about your physicality, but I think you know that, which is great, because for me, my training's non-negotiable. Like after this, I'm going swimming at 2 o'clock and nobody's gonna stop that. Because I know if I don't do that, I'll explode and everything turns to garbage. So again, but you're gonna have to fight on this every single day.
Yeah.
The very last part is what I call pay price to action. So you need to do something that lets people know that you're not gonna go back on this new commitment. And so when you talk to your friends and you say, what do you need from me? Again, that's a great thing that anyone can ask. And you'll be, first of all, anybody asks that, you'll be surprised by the answer. You can ask your employee, you could ask your investor, you could ask your client. You think they want this, a lot of times they just want this. And you're like, oh, okay, I can get you that. That makes more sense. A lot of times they just want this one thing. Maybe they want you to listen. Maybe they want some respect. Maybe they want, free coffee. I don't know, but they want usually this. Yeah. So then make a commitment to give them that on a regular basis. So that's what pay price to action is. So if your mates want something, give it to them. Like I want a 30-minute call on a Sunday. They probably won't be that particular. If your mom wants something, then be like, give her that. She's like, maybe she just wants Christmas, 3 days of Christmas. Maybe she just wants something in August, and otherwise she's willing to let you do your thing. Or your sister maybe just wants this, come over and do this. And then commit to it. I think that's the really most important thing, pay price to action. And do it so you can't go back. Because otherwise, honestly, Matt, you're gonna be back here in 30 days and you'll be like, yeah, Brian, that was a great talk. I was all fired up, but everything slipped and I'm back to where I was.
Yeah.
And this is hard for everybody, man. It's hard for me. I'm constantly trying to evaluate who the people are in my life versus working too much. I'm also trying to constantly see that I get all these dopamine hits from working hard and being busy. Also means I don't have to think about all my own problems.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to meditate on all these concepts, and I'm trying to ask people, what do you need from me? That's my new thing. And then trying to deliver that and resist the mentality that just pushes that over and says, oh, these people aren't important. My mission's important, it's my legacy. So can you do that? And do you visualize your future? If you did this stuff, what could the future you look like? That's what I want to know to finish with.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. That's a great framework. I'll let you know how it goes.
Okay. What could this look like? Like, say you could execute this in a way that even better than you expected. How could this change your life? Is what I'm saying. What would your life look differently if you did this?
Yeah, I think I could see myself having more control.
Okay.
Because actually, I'll be taking more ownership of my schedule. And as you've been taking me through that framework, I've maybe been thinking, perhaps I'm kind of just doing stuff I don't need to be doing necessarily, which is eating up my time.
Yeah.
And then I really like the kind of purging part. I think there is definitely a lot of stuff, not baggage, but you take a lot of stuff on board as you go through the journey.
Yeah.
I think it's maybe time to cut back some of that.
Yeah.
Figure it out for myself. And then paying price to action and making sure I can't go back. Like I think the example you gave of just having like the non-negotiable in the calendar. Like I currently don't have any of those.
Okay.
Right now.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. You need them. Like Sunday morning, I put my boys in the stroller and I take them out for a walk, whether it's raining or sun or they're crying or whatever. I always take them out. So that hour every Sunday, I'm committed, and that does wonders for my wife, for the boys, but even me, because I know I actually did something and I'm just talking it, and it's literally in the calendar. So that happens every time. I'm Saturday morning, I'm spending with the family, and then that's locked off. I got my training time in there. Last thing I'll share with you is that I have clear affirmations I say every single morning on my way to work. Some of those affirmations are business, but some of them are family related, right? So I am spending time with my family. I am pushing them to be the best versions of themselves. I am doing that stuff. And I think it's really important that you get clear on those goals and you're saying them every day and then simplify them. So I'm building, U-Hub's going for 1 billion people. I'm keeping my health and fitness up. I'm investing in my mom and my sister and the 3 names of your mates on a weekly basis that are non-negotiable. And whatever, I'm mentally clear and I'm super positive and I'm not getting caught in these traps of these loops of what people tell themselves. If you saying that stuff to yourself every single week and simplify it. So you got 5 things you're worried about: the business, this part of the business, two people in your family, and just keep it like that. I think you're gonna be turbocharged on the way out. And again, we can all find another 10 hours to be busy in our businesses, but like that's not going to move the needle. It's usually working smarter, but that's a whole nother discussion. I mean, when I've moved past things, it's usually when I've worked smarter, when I've delegated, and usually when I stopped living in fear and did the thing that I was scared most of. That's usually when my business started scaling. So that's another different talk. But look, try this stuff. Again, what do you need from me is a really powerful thing. So try that and put this stuff into place.
Awesome.
Okay?
Awesome, Brian. Thanks so much for having me on.
Dude, my pleasure, man. It's great. I love seeing entrepreneurs like you that are out there firing, and I love the fact that you're having this conversation with yourself, because there's a lot of people out there that just aren't, and this can be an addictive place to be.
Yeah.
I was in the tech space for a while, and I started drinking the Kool-Aid too, because you get so excited about the possibilities and everything's go, 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 and then sometimes you forget to be human, and it's easy to get caught up. But the real winners in tech are the ones that have found the work-life balance, period. Otherwise, they would literally blow up, and we've seen those as well. But they've found some way to find that balance. So if you find it, you're just going to be more successful.
Awesome.
All right, man. Let me know how this stuff goes. Send me an email in a week, and let me know what people said to that. I'm really curious, and the realizations you get. And then check back with me in a month and tell me like what's happening with you.
Will do.
All right?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Brian.
Cool, man. Look, all the best. All right?
Yeah, great meeting you. Cheers.
Okay, cool. We'll be back in a few minutes. Thank you very much.